Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking on a topic that the sources you sent us make terrifyingly clear is no longer just an environmental issue, it's a personal one. We're talking about microplastics. And our mission today is really to synthesize the data that highlights the sheer urgency of this, because the facts are, well, they're pretty hard to swallow.
They are. And we should probably just start with the most shocking finding. This isn't a problem for some people. The research confirms microplastic contamination is affecting 100% of the global population.
100%.
Every single person. We're living in this really uncomfortable gap right now, between strong scientific suspicion and the absolute definitive proof of a global health crisis.
That sounds familiar.
It's eerily similar to where we were with smoking around 1950. Or even asbestos. All the warning lights were flashing, the data pointed toward disaster, but we waited. We waited for that final proof.
And this deep dive is about why we absolutely cannot afford to wait this time. Okay, so let's define what we're up against. The term is everywhere, but what are we actually talking about? Plastic crumbs, is that a fair way to put it?
That's a great analogy, actually.
Right.
Officially, microplastics are any particle smaller than 5 millimeters. Think the size of a sesame seed.
Oh, okay. I can visualize that.
But the real problem, the really insidious threat, comes from nanoplastics. They're so much smaller, less than 0.0001 millimeters. You can't see them at all.
And because they're so small, they float.
They float in the air just like dust, which is exactly why you can't just choose not to be exposed. You're breathing them in right now.
Which makes the very air a contaminated environment. So where is all this plastic dust coming from? The sources break it down to two main types, right? Primary and secondary.
Right. So primary microplastics are the born small kind. They're manufactured to be tiny from the get-go.
Like what?
The classic example is microbeads. Those tiny plastic scrubbers in face washes or some toothpastes. Thankfully, many places are banning those now. But you also have things like glitter or the little plastic pellets factories use. They're called nurdles.
Nurdles, okay. But I have to assume that's not the main source. The vast majority of this stuff can't be from glitter.
No, you're absolutely right. That brings us to the secondary threat, the broken down plastics. And this is where the overwhelming majority of the contamination comes from.
So this is bigger stuff that just breaks apart.
Exactly. It's your water bottle, your shopping bag, fishing nets, even car tires. Over time, sunlight, heat, friction. All these forces just smash and grind these large objects into trillions of microscopic pieces.
You see those acronyms on packaging all the time, PET, PE.
And each one breaks down differently. PT from water bottles gets brittle in the sun and just shatters into tiny fragments. Polyethylene, PE, from plastic bags that sheds tiny fibers when it rubs against things.
And I remember one of the sources really highlighted synthetic clothing, our laundry.
Oh, it's a huge contributor.
Right.
A massive one that people often forget. Every time you wash a fleece jacket, a pair of leggings, anything polyester or nylon,
It sheds.
thousands and thousands of microscopic plastic fibers go straight down the drain with the wastewater. It's one of the single biggest sources of microplastic fibers in our water and eventually in our air.
It's just incredible to think about. That jacket in my closet is contributing to the dust in my lungs. Which brings us to the next part. The infiltration into our bodies.
And this is where it stops being an external problem
Yeah.
and becomes a deeply internal one. The evidence now is it's overwhelming. We're finding it everywhere across all demographics.
Okay, let's walk through the findings because this is where the urgency really hits home. Let's start with the big one, the circulatory system.
Right. So tiny plastic pieces have been found in the blood of 100% of people tested.
Let me just repeat that. Not 99%, 100%. Every single person.
Every single person.
Right.
And if it's in the blood, it's going everywhere. So if we follow the bloodstream to the heart,
What do we find?
we're finding microplastics embedded inside the plaques that block arteries in patients with heart disease.
Wow. So are they just stuck there or are they actually causing the plaque?
That's the billion-dollar question. We don't know for sure yet. But we have to wonder if these jagged little particles are causing the physical irritation and inflammation that actually helps drive that disease.
And this is where we have to talk about how they do damage, right? It's not just that they're there.
It's a dual threat, really, a 1-2 punch.
Okay.
First, you have the physical particle itself, a sharp foreign object that can irritate cells and cause inflammation. We see this in the lungs, for instance. We're finding these fibers deep in the lungs of non-smokers.
Just causing constant irritation.
Exactly. But the second threat might be even worse. It's chemical. Plastics aren't inert. They're loaded with chemical additives.
Things like BPA, phthalates, Endocrine disruptors.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And once those plastic particles are inside your warm, wet body, those chemicals can leach out directly into your tissues. They can interfere with your hormones, your metabolism, everything.
So we're not just consuming a tiny piece of plastic, we're consuming the chemical baggage it carries with it.
That's the perfect way to put it. And the nanoplastics, because they're so incredibly small, can go places the bigger ones can't.
Like past the blood-brain barrier.
They can. And they've been found in the brains of people who had dementia. And maybe most disturbingly, they've been found in the placentas of unborn babies.
So it's being passed from mother to child before they're even born.
It appears so. We're also seeing studies where young men with higher levels of plastic in their testicles tend to have lower sperm counts. It's a systemic infiltration. Blood, heart, lungs, brain, reproductive systems, everywhere.
Which brings us right back to that 1950s smoking analogy. The red lights aren't just flashing, they're screaming at us.
And if we look at the math,
yeah,
this is where it gets really terrifying. Let's just compare the exposure models.
Okay.
Tobacco. It's a known disaster.
Yeah.
Kills over 8 million people a year.
Okay.
But it's mostly a choice, right? It actively harms, what, about 20% of the world's population?
It's a contained demolition, in a way. A fifth of the forest is on fire.
A perfect analogy. Now, microplastics. The exposure isn't 20%. It's 100%. The entire forest is filled with an invisible gas.
So the statistical multiplier is just massive.
It's unavoidable because billions more people are exposed every single second. If microplastics turn out to be even half as toxic as cigarettes, just half, the global health burden could statistically dwarf the toll of tobacco.
I have to push back on that for a second. If the exposure is 100% and the risk is that high, why aren't hospitals overflowing right now? Why aren't we seeing this massive acute crisis?
That is exactly the right question. And it's the difference between an acute toxin and a chronic one.
Okay.
Smoking is relatively acute. It causes damage you can see in years, not necessarily decades. Microplastics and their chemicals, they seem to be a slow burn threat. They build up. They cause slow simmering inflammation, hormonal changes, cell mutations over decades.
So the crisis is happening. It's just playing out in slow motion.
It's playing out in the slow rise of certain cancers, of cardiovascular disease, of reproductive issues. The invisible gas is slow acting. But because it permeates the entire forest, the total toll is guaranteed to be devastating.
Which means we can't wait for the final body count. We have to act now to limit that multiplier effect.
That's the core principle. Control what we can control now.
So what does that look like? Based on the sources, what are the specific proactive steps? Let's start with the big picture, the regulatory stuff.
On that front, the lowest hanging fruit is eliminating the intentional, born small plastics. The number one action is a complete global ban on microbeads in consumer products. They serve no essential purpose. They're a direct-to-drain contaminant.
That seems like a no-brainer.
It should be. But the real work, the heavy lifting, is in reducing the secondary stuff. We have to slow the fire hose of large plastic objects entering the environment because friction and sunlight will always break them down.
So fewer single-use water bottles, fewer plastic bags, better systems for dealing with fishing nets and tire dust.
Exactly. Stop it at the source before it has a chance to become invisible dust.
Okay, now for the individual, for the listener. The sources mention that personal habits can control 30 to 70% of our exposure. That is a huge number. Where does that reduction come from?
It comes from focusing on the three main ways it gets into your body: breathing, drinking, and eating.
Let's start with drinking.
Okay, the big one here is bottled water. It has been shown to contain hundreds of times more microplastics than tap water. Just the act of opening the plastic cap sheds particles into the water.
So switch to tap.
Switch to filtered tap water. The sources strongly recommend a good quality carbon block or reverse osmosis filter and drink from glass or stainless steel. That's a massive reduction right there.
Okay, number 2, eating.
This is mostly about the container. The absolute number one rule is never, ever microwave food in a plastic container. Not even if it says microwave safe. The heat just massively accelerates the breakdown of the plastic and the leaching of those chemicals directly into your food. Use glass to store and reheat. And try to cut down on takeout food that comes in those heated plastic containers.
And number 3, the one we can't see, breathing.
This goes back to textiles. Since washing our synthetic clothes is a huge source of the plastic fibers that end up in the air, you can make a real difference. They make special filters for your washing machine, or you can use something called a Guppy Friend bag to wash your synthetics in. It catches the fibers.
So small habits, but they add up.
They add up to that 30 to 70% reduction in your personal load. They really do.
That's incredibly powerful. So to bring this all home, the message is clear. The evidence of universal infiltration is undeniable. Blood, brain, heart, even in unborn babies. And the potential statistical outcome, dwarfing tobacco, it demands we act now on both the born small and the broken down plastics.
And here's the thought I want to leave you with. The systemic problem is enormous, yes. It can feel hopeless, but you are not helpless. By focusing on your water, your food, your laundry, you're not just protecting your own body.
You're sending a message.
You're creating the pressure in the market and for regulators that forces wider change. You are choosing to act now, while much of the world is still waiting for that final, devastating proof.
A very compelling and frankly very necessary call to action. Thank you for walking us through these sources. This has been a critical deep dive.